Hey guys, welcome back to Vertical Momentum. I'm your host, Richard Kaufman, also known as the Comeback Coach. Guys, this episode, if you're a veteran and you're having problems getting your VA benefits, this is the episode for you. Our friend Kate is crushing it with VETCOMM, changing the lives of people all across America. She's not only an entrepreneur, she's an author, she is CEO, a Marine, which I love my Marines, and she's the Swiss Army knife of positivity. So, Kate, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm so good. Thanks for having me on. Excited.
It's truly my honor, and I got to give a big shout out to Robert, the warrior strategist Garcia. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be talking today. So, thank you, Mr. Rob. First
Yeah.
question, first question right out the gate. What is your definition of resiliency?
It's a good question. So, my definition of resiliency is basically your ability to rebound after adversity. So, when I was in the Marine Corps, I ended up getting assaulted. I smashed my nose in an eye socket, smashed my elbow, my right ankle. And a lot of people say, "Hey, Kate, would you go back if you had a time machine and not do all that? If you knew all that was going to happen to you?" And I say, absolutely not, because it gave me the gift of resiliency. Right. So, some of the things that make up resiliency, part of that is having grit, having the ability to adapt and overcome, having the ability to stand strong in the face of adversity. We had somebody try to do a hostile takeover of our company in the beginning of the year. And if I wasn't a resilient person, I might have just folded like a prom dress and taken my ball and walked off. But a resilient person can kind of be like the Spartans, where they pull in their shield and they're like, no, we're going to hold the line. We're going to keep marching on. And I think that's my definition of resiliency.
So give us a quick down and dirty about where you come from, where'd you grow up, a little bit about your military service, and how did you become such a force like you are today?
Well, I think my service probably contributed quite a lot, but I grew up in Northern California in a little town called Redding, actually Anderson, like a little sub community of Redding, in a little tiny town. Had a trauma-free, amazing childhood. I grew up in the 80s, so it was like the time to be alive. Like the best possible childhood I think was had in the 80s, early 90s. And everything was great. Grew up in a Christian family. I went away to college on a full ride scholarship. I didn't know what I wanted to be yet, but I knew I was going to be something. I was going to make an impact. And I ended up going in the service, and I went in the Marine Corps. And as I said, I even though I was in military intelligence and it should have been very cool and high speed, I ended up having a lot of mental and physical injuries to my person. And I ended up getting out early. And I sort of put a pin in that service and went on about my business, being in sales leadership, entrepreneurship, authorship, whatever it is that led me to here. But I think certainly the thing that has always helped me overcome and grab a rung and be brave and sort of take the hill with the expectation that people are going to take it behind me was having served in the Marine Corps. It lets you know what is hard. It gives you a really good definition. Like, that's my litmus test. Is writing this book harder than being in the service? No. Okay, fine. I can do it. Is doing this harder than that? And I've always been able to say, no, I already did the hardest thing I could have possibly done, and everything has been easy since.
So, what was it like going through basic training as a Marine, and as a female high speed Marine?
I would say that boot camp was the most fun part of the entire journey. Boot camp's fun. People don't realize how funny drill instructors are. They are hilarious. Some of the stuff they say, and you can't lose your bearing and smile, but they're hilarious. And so boot camp was very fun. You have that really tight knit, close camaraderie with people. You're going through it every day. And that was the most fun part of being in the Marine Corps. Now, I'm 5'9" and currently about 150 pounds. I'm a pretty fit lady. But at the time, I only weighed about 120 pounds. I was very fit, lean. And so it was a little easier for me, as you can imagine, than somebody who was maybe 4'10", 5 feet tall. A little bit harder for them to schlep around that pack and helmet and Kevlar and their rifle than it was for somebody that's almost the size of a small man.
Okay, so now when you went through your assault, and we're not going to go into all about that, but now doing what you do now, a lot of people, I think the numbers are very staggering for people that actually come forward after an assault.
Yeah.
But then I think a lot of people, after it's out, they kind of drop it and just let it go, and then they get out, and then they have a problem when they get out trying to get their compensation.
Yes.
So talk about that a little, that aspect of what you see now people going through.
Yeah, the numbers that are reported, that people have actually reported that they have been assaulted, whether it be quid pro quo all the way up to the R word, which, is what happened to me, is I would say this much of the real number. A lot of people, when they're in service, they get very scared, or they actually do report it, but it doesn't really get reported. It's one thing to say, hey, this happened to me. It's a whole nother thing for it to actually be memorialized on your behalf. So I would say about half of the people that come to VETCOMM have some kind of assault in their background. And while I wish it didn't happen to me, because I delivered myself a virgin to the service and obviously didn't come out one, because that was my first sexual experience, was that assault, it sort of changes the lens of every sexual encounter you have after that. It sort of makes it a little more transactional, where you want to have more control. And I think because in our advertising and our messaging to people, I'm willing to say what happened to me, and I'm going to invite them to let me help defend their position. We, more than most services, have people claim this. We have them claim their PTSD, their personal traumas, their anxiety, their depression around this. And I think as such, we get people not only compensated, we get them closure. And I think that's a really big deal. While it might not heal the whole thing, there is something to taking this trauma, delivering it to the VA and saying, hey, this is yours and you need to compensate me for it. And you do get some little bit of, respect and memorialization of it. And then you can move on to your life and start to heal. Whatever you hide, you can't heal. I really want you to understand that if you're a veteran, whether it's personal trauma or PTSD, depression, anxiety, if you are hiding it, you can't heal it. No one can help you. We would love to know at VETCOMM, if that's something you're facing, stop hiding it, give it to me. Let me, help you heal and get you paid.
So when you were going through this, did the higher ups, did they try to push it down, or did they help you push it up?
Well, I was still in a training command. I was actually allowed to go see a chaplain. They kind of didn't know really what to do with me. I was a good Marine that they didn't want to lose, but they didn't really know how to face it or what to do, because it was so ugly. So I spent about 2 weeks working with a chaplain. And I remember this chaplain said to me, he said, hey, I've got to know you over this couple of weeks. And from what I can tell, you had a good childhood. I said, yeah, it was absolutely great. He said, trauma-free childhood. I said, yep, it was absolutely. He said, and you seem to be a Christian. I'm picking that up from you. I said, yes, sir, I am. He said, well, then you have an interesting choice to make that other people don't get to make. People that had trauma in their childhood, their brain just does not respond to trauma in the same way. He said, you get a choice. You're going to be very powerful here. He goes, you could give it to God and say it was an event and walk off and hand it off and march on and not let it ruin or taint the rest of your life. Or you could hold on to it forever and have it sort of taint every experience that you have from here on out. And I remember being 19, going to bed thinking, wow, I have quite a lot of control. I didn't know that you could just decide how you want to respond to things. And it was the best lesson of my entire life. It helped me respond to every other adverse situation. Like, look, no, I'm not going to let this get in. I'm going to deal with it out here apart from myself, decide how much energy, effort, and part of my emotions it's going to steal. And then I'm going to contend with it. And I think that that's really important. But no, they actually sent me home. They called my parents and said, hey, she's going to come home for a couple of weeks on leave. She's suicidal. And I was not suicidal. So my dad picked me up at the airport. He was kind of sideways when he picked me up, and he asked me how I got to the point that I wanted to commit suicide. I had no idea that they told him that. And I was thinking, I don't want to commit suicide. Like, what are you talking? Like, I don't want to commit suicide. But because they told him that, I didn't have to tell him what happened to me. I just let him think for 15 years. I only told him about 10 years ago, less than 10 years ago, what really happened. Because he asked me, we were having a glass of wine, and he said, I got to ask you, when you were 19 and you came home, were you really thinking of committing suicide, or was there something else at play? And I had to be honest with him and tell him. But no, they were going to hide it and just push me up to my parents and hope the chaplain could help sweep it under the rug. And that's pretty common. Or you're going to get bullied and harassed and threatened the rest of the time you're in.
So how many years did you end up doing?
I was in for 3.5 years, almost 4. I was awaiting a med board, and my master sergeant was getting out. And I just got done writing a book with Rob called The Body Man, and we made a protector character. We named him Dallas. Well, my master sergeant's name, his first name was Dallas. And he came to me and he said, hey, Kate, I know you're waiting for that med board, but I'm getting out of the service next month. And I said, yeah, I know. I'll be at your retirement. And he said, no. I'm getting out of the service, and under good conscience, I can't leave you here. You are not safe. You are not safe here without me, not physically, not emotionally, not mentally. Will you let me get you out of the service? And he sort of rushed my paperwork to get me out. And so I got out with nothing. I got out with no rating at all. I did it all myself. About 11 years later, I got out after smashing my face, after getting assaulted, after all these personal and physical injuries, having to do everything on my own. And that's why, in creating VETCOMM, I don't want other people to go through that. Nobody should have to face all this alone, especially when they had that much hardship.
Okay, so let's talk about the military transition, because like my friend Sergeant Nick talks about, he says, once you step off base, the military doesn't give a shit about you. Your phone stops ringing.
Yep.
You don't have camaraderie. You don't have a paycheck, and you don't have a mission. Yep. So what was it like stepping off base for that final time and coming home and trying to find out, well, who is Kate now?
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, I wasn't in long enough necessarily to have to figure out who I was now. I was actually relieved to get out because I wasn't safe. I was getting, bullied and harassed and just having a very difficult time. So in some way I was relieved, unlike a lot of people. When you're in an oppressive environment, you are relieved when you are out of it. So for me, I was relieved, but that's not how it is for most people. In fact, we were helping a guy named Mike Dolbo here in Escondido.
That's my buddy Mike. Yes, I've had him on the show. I love me some Michael Dolbo.
Oh, he's so great. And so we decided to lean in and get him a computer and some money and, just some things to try to make his life nicer. And all my staff, all these kids that work for me in my media department, they said, if there's so many resources for veterans, how many are so many of them homeless? And I said, well, imagine that in working for me, not only are you going to get a paycheck, I'm going to provide you a place to live, your healthcare, your food, your team, your camaraderie, your purpose. But then tomorrow I say, hey, you don't work here anymore. Now you got to go find new housing and new purpose. And I have to turn this back on. Can you plug this in for me, please? Oh, I got it. You got to go find everything brand new. And oh, by the way, you can't do the job you were doing either. That's how we transition 250,000 people. And in knowing that, I said, what can VETCOMM do? If I purport to really care about veterans, then what can I do for the veteran community long-term to make sure that they have a longer runway? So we went through the process of being a DoD skill bridge provider. So I actually employ about 30 skill bridge people. So I have about 30 active duty people that work here at VETCOMM, meaning they're still getting paid. They're still technically in the service, but they work for me full time. And the day they transition, we hire them as full-time employees. They have benefits. They have a team. They have purpose. So they don't have any slippage, right? They get to retain healthcare. They get to retain money. They already know exactly what they're going to be doing. There isn't all this crazy anxiety around their transition. And also, because they're working here, now they're like, oh, I work at VETCOMM. I should probably go memorialize all my injuries. I should probably start getting my mental health in order, because we're directing them what to do upon their exit. And I would encourage more companies to step in for our nation's heroes, because they are absolutely amazing employees.
So if you're okay, now let's go back, because like I said, my most of my listenership are veterans or soon to be veterans. Yeah. So if you're a year and a half out,
yep.
Like I tell everybody, make sure you annotate everything. Keep every slip of paper. I don't care if it's a doctor's note because of a toothache. Keep everything you got. What are some of the things you're teaching people to do before they get out?
Well, before you're getting out, if you're making that BDD claim, as you just said, you want to make sure you start memorializing everything now. If you think I want to claim my mental health, let's get it in your record. Start going to get some therapy. Start memorializing things. If you hurt your knee, in jump school or being a paratrooper, and you didn't want to talk about it then when you were still doing that job, because you didn't want to not be able to jump, go talk about it now. Like every single little thing, go make sure it's memorialized in your record. And then when it's time, especially if you're working with VETCOMM, about 20% of our business is BDD claims, believe it or not. Because a lot of people go, if I go to these free services, they're only going to claim what's in my record, which is very little. They're not going to coach me. They're not going to really be available to me. They have no skin in the game, whether I win or not. And so they come to us and we can guide them through the whole process and make sure that they exit well. And the other thing is, a lot of the people that come to us get into our Skill Bridge program because they realize, oh, not only are these people providing me a good service, I want to go help other veterans. And so it's been really good.
Now, okay, so when you got out, and me and you have something else in common. We were both in the timeshare industry. So, I think we both learned to take a lot of no's.
Yeah.
So, what was it like getting out and then getting into the business world, into the civilian business world as a Marine Corps veteran? Because I noticed the reason why this show is here because we help veterans find their mission through entrepreneurship.
Yes.
And it seems like because when we were in the military, we didn't work from 9 to 5. We worked until the job was complete.
Correct.
So what was it like going into the civilian world, having that Marine Corps mindset?
Well, me, like a lot of other Marines, you sort of feel like all your counterparts are a little bit soft and moving very slow, right? They don't seem to be necessarily walking or working with purpose or intention. So you're kind of like, what are you doing over there? Like, get your work done so we can move on. And their feelings are softer. You know, veterans were a little bit gritty. We're a little like sandpaper, and we can be a little more curt and stern and just sort of, on the way. And we don't leave a lot of room for the fluff and chatter and talk. And so the office politicking part is hard for people in their transition. It's hard for them to make these new corporate friends and figure out how to plug in. And are these people going to be okay with my weird brand of humor? Those are the things that make it difficult to transition. I think that's why you find so many veterans transitioning to things like being fire, police, other service things, because they more natively can plug in. But you see a lot of officers, especially, or people who stayed in about 10, 15 years higher ranking, they might want to try their hand at entrepreneurship. And that might be being a contractor, plumber, electrician. They might want to start their own business that way. You have other people that will buy a franchise. I don't recommend I didn't just get out of the Marine Corps, start VETCOMM. Right? It didn't work like that. I had an entrepreneurship later in my life. What I always tell people is when you transition, figure out, as you're transitioning, who do I want to be? Like, what do I want to do every day that I actually enjoy? Do I want to employ people? Like, figure those things out and then go do a thing that's like it. Like, if I want to own a little gym, go work at a gym. Work there long enough to become a manager. See how much work it takes. What is the ad budget? Learn, be a good mentee to a great mentor, and you'll be surprised. I mentor a lot of people. If they come to my business and they sew a lot in, like they're really here, how do I do my best work? I'm going to make sure that I do my best work for them and elevate them to where they belong. So I was actually in New York on the Yahoo Wealth Show, and we talked all about this. How do you get out and become an entrepreneur? And it's just not everyone's path. I would tell people, and you can agree with this, Richard, if you're in timeshare, or you're in the car business and you're a salesperson, you're an entrepreneur. Because you have unlimited income. However hard you work it, you technically kind of run your own business inside their business. So yeah, I tell people, maybe start in sales, try to do something where you kind of have control of how much you make, but not all the bills and the overhead and the planning.
And I learned if you can learn how to take a lot of no's and then you realize, well, hey, if I talk to 100 people and I close 25% of them, then I just talked to 75 people knowing the 25 is coming.
Correct. You just keep going because the win is coming. It's a numbers game. And that's where I think that when people first start in business, you're going to get a lot of no's. You're going to try to borrow money and someone's going to say no. You're going to try to get investors. Someone's going to say no. You're going to try to get a building and someone's going to say no. If you just keep stacking up all these no's and you don't sort of shuck them like you do corn, and get rid of that stuff every day, chuck it, F it and chuck it in the trash. Then by the time you get to the end of the week with all these no's and these small little defeats, now they seem like, pretty big thing. Conversely, with your wins, you could get a lot of little micro wins and earn them small and stack them tall. And woo, now I'm winning. But it can happen on the loss side as well. So you just got to have that resiliency. That first question you asked me, you got to tap into that resiliency and grit and just go, hey, is this harder than what I did in the Marine Corps? Is this harder than what I did in the service? And if it's not, dirt it off and walk forward.
But I also think that if you work with VETCOMM, and I've talked to plenty of people now that have worked with you guys, and they got up to 100%, and they have sometimes over 100%. And we can talk about that later. But now there's money coming in.
Yep.
So now they can become the entrepreneur because they don't have to worry about, well, I got to make the paycheck. Well, I know on whatever day it comes in, my money's coming in. So now I can focus on being an entrepreneur. And there's certain ways, and we're not lawyers or accountants, but there's certain ways where, like for me, I have a corporation where I can still collect and I don't have to pay any taxes on that. Corporation does. So, but it's easy for me because I have the money coming in because of the. So talk about the importance of having a paycheck, and this way you can become an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a veteran watching this, which we can sort of safely assume you may be, if you're not rated, start there. Get off the bench, get out of the trench, get moving, give that to me. Let's go and get you what you're owed, because you're exactly right, Richard. Let's say you succeed at getting 100%, which everyone will not. But let's say that you do. You have roughly $4,000 of tax-free money coming in, which is similar to earning $6,500, $7,000 a month, working an actual job where you would get a paycheck. So your net income is pretty good. That gives you the peace of mind and the structure and the infrastructure and the foundation where now you can go take risk. Very difficult to take risk without any backstops, without any help. But once you get this going, now it's like, okay, like let's say you're married to somebody who's working. And even if you only get 90%, you're getting $2,200 a month. That's like you making nearly $5,000 a month. Now your spouse will say, okay, well, you're getting similar net income. Now you can go do the thing that you want to do. I always tell veterans, I think one of the best things that veterans can do, and I watched my dad be a contractor for a long time. If you get out, go and learn plumbing, electrical work, being a contractor, learn that skill, get licensed, work for somebody. Then work for them long enough to manage other people, 3 or 4 other people, then learn how to manage a job, how to be the foreman, then go open your own business. In 5 to 7 years, you can build a very successful plumbing or electrical business, make a ton of money, $250,000, $300,000 a year by just investing your time. Very low cost of entry. Stop trying to think I need to be a CEO today. No, you do not. You can go from contractor to CEO in 5 to 7 years, almost invest nothing but your time and your equity and your veteran skills. And then, wow, in less than a decade, I own a multi-million-dollar company. That, I think, is a great path to success for veterans.
And I love it. And by the way, I got to say, I loved your interview on Shift Life magazine last month. Great cover. Great cover. I just got to say that. So let me ask you a couple of questions. What do you see is the reason why a lot of veterans struggle with getting their ratings? Is it a paperwork thing? Is it a get up and get your ass moving thing? Or is it a mixture of both?
I think it's analysis paralysis. Most veterans that are waiting, not all veterans, but certainly ones waiting on the bench, are in a state of, they have like this, they were at maybe the long-term state already for a long time, which gives you that underlying anxiety all the time. And it's not panic attack anxiety, it's perfectionism and hypervigilance and non-deployment of skills and OCD tics and checking and rechecking and watching things instead of winning. And I think that there's so much content now online that people get in this eddy of just watching. And then this contradicts that. Now you're like, well, I don't even know who's correct. And what if I don't have all my paperwork? And all this anxiety starts, and you go, you know what? Ugh, I just need to abandon it. And that anxiety causes veterans to abandon anything where they might not win or do it perfect. So they just decide not to do it. So we tell veterans in that state, give that stuff to me. I already made it through. I already traversed that whole canyon of anxiety to get to the other side. I know how to do it. I taught my team how to do it. Give us that anxiety. Let us, concierge, walk you through the steps it takes, and let us not allow the VA to prey on that. I hate to say this, but they're an insurance company. And who do you think it benefits if you stay in a state of anxiety? Who does it benefit if you believe you don't deserve it? If you believe you're not enough? If you believe you don't qualify? It benefits the VA. And I know a lot of veterans that I speak to don't think a whole lot of what the government does with their money. So you have to think, if my bank account is sitting at the VA and I'm not taking it, guess who is? Well, every month that money clips by. I mean, you could be giving up roughly $50,000 a year to the government to do whatever things you don't want them to do. Nothing good for you. Even if you don't want it because somebody deserves it more, then give it to someone else. Don't let the government keep it. So I think it's just this analysis paralysis is the bottom line of why people don't do it.
So, okay, so let's talk about VETCOMM. I want to talk specifically about VETCOMM because, a lot of people think, well, I'm just going to give it to my VSO and he's going to work on it or she's going to work on it, not knowing that your VSO has 5,000 other pieces of paper in front of them at the same time every single day. So talk about the differences in what VETCOMM does than what a VSO does.
Well, I mean, as you just said, you have to ask, veterans, because veterans will say, well, you charge for it. Well, I could just do it for free. Well, I'm going to explain why doing it the longest, hardest way possible with a VSO isn't free, right? Because it comes down to our net result. What net result did I get by what I chose to do up front? If I chose to go the free way up front and it takes me 18 months to get 30% because they wouldn't claim things that weren't in my record, because they were unwilling to coach me, because they never called me back, because I quit in the middle of it, I paid nothing up front, but I only got $300 or $400 a month. Right? So the net result really wasn't very good. Even though you didn't pay for it, you got robbed, actually. On our side, we're saying for $11.97, or we have 3 payments of $500 or 6 payments of $350, multiple paths to get in. We're saying we're going to guarantee you a win. Our average rating is 70% in less than 4 months. So while you might have had to pay a little bit here, your net result is 3 to 5 times higher for life. The last free lunch you had probably wasn't too tasty. It was probably from Panda Express, right? Anything you get for free isn't going to be that good, because most veterans caught in this analysis paralysis have a lot of questions. Most veterans in the life cycle of being a VETCOMM client will talk to us 35 times. If you think you're going to get a VSO who isn't getting paid usually, or isn't getting paid well, and they're going to find your stack of paper on their desk and that they're even actually sitting there, you're not going to be a priority. So who are you going to call when you want to bail? Who are you going to call on a bad day? We field 200 suicide calls a month. Who are you going to call? Is your VSO going to answer on a bad day? Is your VSO, like I sent one of our veterans $200 today for groceries because he and his family are broke. Your VSO isn't even going to take that call. So you just got to kind of go, what is my end result? And if I really, truly am committed to getting that end result, am I willing to make the correct decision for me and my family now? And that's really the difference, because we're going to make the intent to file. We're going to file the claim. We're going to prepare you for every single exam, one-on-one. We're even going to give you a library of videos for your analysis paralysis that you can look at, in between the 1,000 times you talk to us. We work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, 150 people looking at the same chat all day long. So the kind of service you're going to get here is the kind you pay for. It's like you could go to Disneyland and buy the regular ticket and stand in line all day. Yeah, you're going to ride the same ride that the Genie Pass person rode, but they're going to ride 18 rides because they're cutting the line, and you're going to ride 4, and your family's going to never want to go to Disneyland again. So while you got the result, it sucked. It sucked the whole time, and it was awful, versus you could take something that could be very hard, turn it into an easy experience with VETCOMM.
And Michael Dobo is prime example. I mean, as much as he got the VA tried to screw him, you guys stepped up for him, and now he's on a path that he never thought he would have a path. And
yeah, I mean, we want to rescue people. I mean, that's kind of what we do here. I made our logo as a shield on purpose. It's meant for us to put that shield out there and for you to get behind us, and we're going to kick the door in so that you can go and win and succeed. It's there to shield you from the bureaucracy and the just onslaught of BS that this, VA insurance company has for you.
So if there's a veteran out there thinking, you know what, my knee always hurts, but I'm not as bad as the other guy. I'm not as bad as Frank down the street. What would you say to that person that are saying, you know what? I don't feel like I'm disabled, but I can't walk too good.
Yeah. I mean, I think I would tell veterans, stop looking at VA disability like it's SSDI. It's not a disability payment. It's an insurance settlement. And any insurance settlement you were owed, you'd go get it. See, the thing is, where we feel we have to be deserving, I am not a therapist. I'm not your chaplain. I'm not going to sit and have a conversation with whether you deserve it or not. Just the nature that you think you don't deserve it is the exact reason you should be getting it. You have been convinced of this, that your service somehow is less valuable. You are less than a hero because some other guy that got blown up. Budgets don't work that way. None of your money is going to your buddy who's probably also not rated, right? So you guys are both waiting for somebody who's a bigger, better hero than you. There's Navy SEALs that have this kind of mentality, and you would think they were the guys that should be going to get it because they deserve it. So our mantra isn't you served, you deserve. You will never hear me say you served, you deserve. I would never say that, because if I thought that was going to convince a veteran to take a step, I wouldn't have to say it. They would already feel deserving. What we say is you served yourself to the service whole. You came out less than whole. You are owed the delta. And that delta might be 10%, might be 100%. But I'm going to make sure you get what you're owed. Because every time a veteran is owed money, I could tell you what, they will call you 1,000 times to get their money. So stop thinking about this deserving stuff. Lay that down. You're owed the money, and let's go collect our insurance payments that we have been letting get forfeited.
So if somebody's out there right now listening to us, how do they find you? How do they get in touch with you? How do we get into your ecosystem?
If a veteran wants, so we offer every single veteran a 15 to 30 minute free strategy call. You don't have to do anything with us. The cool part is we're going to kind of take an analysis of from your head to your toes, inside and out, your mental health, ask you good questions. And we're going to tell you, hey, based on what you told me, I think you should be rated here. And here's how we would do it. Here's how other people do it. Would you like to do business with us? No matter what, you're going to get off the call with a direction. You're going to have taken a step. You've gotten off the bench. You've at least said, hey, I'm in the game. I want to participate. And if you go with us, great. We're going to get you rated. And, we have a money back guarantee. So there's really no risk to you. If we're unsuccessful, we give you your money back. And if they want to find us, they go to VETCOMM.us, VETCOMM, like vet community, VETCOMM.us, not .com. And right on that front page, there's a little lead form to figure out. Somebody will get a hold of you in less than 10 minutes. And we'll take good care of you, get you in the system, and get you going.
And you're also on LinkedIn. You're also on YouTube, correct?
Yes, we're on every social as VETCOMM US. Also, if you want to hear more about me, all of my handles on socials are Kate Monroe CEO on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, whatever else there is in the world. But it's Kate Monroe CEO. The VETCOMM is VETCOMM US.
And make sure, guys, if you're listening, pick up the last issue of Shift Advanced Life. She's on the cover, and it was an amazing, amazing interview. So, Kate, I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you for what you do for our veterans, and I'll support you guys any way that I can help. I'm in.
Thank you so much. You guys have a blessed day. Thanks for having me on. And like I said, anything we can do for veterans, we're here for it.
You too. And Robert Garcia, thank you so much for putting this together. Have a great week. And guys, remember, vertical momentum, the only way to go is up. I love you guys. Have a great week. Take care of yourself and take care of each other.